All right, everybody. All right, we're going to get straight into it. For to this you were called, because Messiah also suffered for us, leaving us an example that you should follow in his steps. 1 Peter 2:21. All right, so this is the second video in our series, Steps of Obedience. We're going to do one of these videos every Saturday where you get to watch me read, add one new particular piece of obedience to the lifestyle of me and my house, and see how terrible I do at it, or how much ridicule I get for it, or whatever. Last week's video was on keeping the Sabbath, and this week's video is going to be on the tithe. So how did it go? I started doing Sabbath Friday night through Saturday night for the last couple weeks. Last week it went great. This week it's been a little bit of a challenge. My father-in-law rented a machine, a skid steer with a big old brush hog attachment on it, and we're clearing some stuff out of the back of his woods, and I'm helping. Is that work? Well, yeah. You know, is it fun? Are we socializing? Are we having a good time? Yes. Am I getting paid for it? No. Is it something that I do for a living? Not often, but yes, it's absolutely within my field of work. The rest of the day today is going to be spent celebrating a whole batch of September birthdays in our extended family all together. So it's going to be a party, and my brother-in-law is out here. He's running the machine right now. I am prioritizing this with y'all, so I'm doing my best, but I think I could have planned a little bit better. It is difficult keeping the Sabbath on a Saturday surrounded by a culture of believers who would keep the Sabbath on Sunday. So that's going to be interesting to see how that continues to play out. The justification that I have read for Sabbath being Shabbat, which traditionally is from Friday night to Saturday night, is that God created night before the day. And I'm not going to try to get into a sermon here on Genesis and the Sabbath. I would encourage you guys to read the Bible for yourself and do whatever is convicting to you based on what you're reading. That being said, I really encourage that you read your Bible every day, and that you build in a habit of study. I think that is foundational. I think that building your life on his word is the most important thing you can do. Christ would say, he's been asked a lot of questions throughout the New Testament. Hey, what's the most important commandment to keep? What should I be doing as a Christian? And he's got a lot of answers for those, and you don't know what those answers are unless you're reading your word. And it's through God's word that we are talked to by the Father. It's not the only way he talks to us, but he wrote us this really long letter. And if you believe in him, and if you have given your life over to him, then you should probably read what he wrote you. So that's my 2 cents on that. If you want more details on how I keep the Sabbath, go back and watch the first video in the series. If you are struggling to build a daily Bible routine, or even a weekly Bible routine that is not just church, then I highly recommend you check out Bear Independent. That's a YouTube channel on here, bearindependent.com. But the YouTube channel, there's also a Patreon, which is awesome. But the YouTube channel has gobs of free content. And there is an Old Testament and New Testament playlist where TJ Morris, who was not a pastor back then, he started out just like this, just being a dude, reading the Bible, and that was 7 years ago, and now he is a pastor. He reads every single word to you on YouTube. So if you want someone to read with you and to provide some insight and context, then that would be a great channel to check out. Bear Independent. Highly recommend it. Okay. Let's talk about the bit that we referenced last week. So this is Matthew 19, Matthew 19, verses 16 through 22. And what this is it is the interaction between the young rich man. Focus, read, do one thing at a time. Let's find it in our book first, and then talk. Okay, I can't talk or find things in my book. Great, this YouTube video is going lovely. Okay, here we are, Matthew 19. Flipping. Okay, Matthew 19, verses 16 through 22 documents the interaction between the young rich man and Christ. And what I want to talk to you about is there's two types of Christianity portrayed in this interaction. One is total devotion and servitude, forsaking everything from your past worldly self. Jesus says, sell all of your money, sell all of your belongings, give the money to the poor, and follow me. Christ follower. And then there's this other thing where it's, hey, just do the basics and believe in me, but keep all your stuff. And my interpretation, this is me, my interpretation is that these are two different Christian lifestyles. I'm not trying to make the claim that the young rich man in that conversation, because he did not follow Jesus, is therefore not saved. We can have that argument till the cows come home, which if you want to, go ahead and email me, reading the word, RIEDING, the word at Gmail, and we can talk about it. Or you can drop something in the comments, and then everyone can comment, and it'll be a mess. But I'd rather have a mess of comments than no comments at all, so please engage. That's very encouraged. But why I brought that up this week and what we're going to talk about is, say that you are very new to the faith, say that your lifestyle is an utter mess, and that maybe you weren't raised in a Christian home, or maybe you currently don't have many routines or things that you're doing that resemble a Christian lifestyle at all. And you actually do want to hear what Jesus told the young rich man about the basics. Or maybe you do consider yourself a Christian and a believer, and you do think that you're saved, and this is just a good checklist, a good litmus test to see where you are on all of that. So, he comes up to Jesus and he says, hey, I believe in you. So he's checked the John 3:16 box, but what do I need to do? And Jesus says, keep my commands. Okay, Jesus and the Father are one. So Jesus's commands are the Father's commands. What are the Father's commands? Well, they're the 10 Commandments. Okay, they're the 10 Commandments, and how come? I'll just do this. And all of this. So there's all of that. You need your dump trailer?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I'm good. Okay, good.
Mosquitoes, get out of here. Father-in-law. You're on YouTube now.
Perfect. You gotta show me how to set up a channel anyway.
Okay. All right. So, in this text, but if you wish to enter into life, guard the commands. So Jesus says, hey, not just believe in me, but guard. He says, guard the commands. I think NIV says, guard my commands. Let's go check out the NIV. This is fun. If you want to enter into life, keep the commandments. Okay, so he doesn't say the 10 commandments. He just says the commandments or my commandments. Guard the commands. Okay, so what are the commands? Within the context of the day, this was a predominantly Jewish audience, and to reference the commands was most likely a reference to Torah, which is the law, which is the instruction, which is what the Pharisees claimed they were teaching. But they weren't just teaching that. They had Talmud. They had this overabundant exaggeration of what the laws were, because they were perpetuating this works-based salvation principle, meaning you have to do all of this if you want to earn your way into heaven. And we can debate the dynamics of all of that on another video. But anyway, let's get back to this. So the young rich man asks, okay, which ones? And this is a question that a lot of Christians ask, and it's a question that Christians should ask, and it's a question that churches attempt to answer. Oftentimes, churches will have a doctrinal statement, and you should go look at your church's doctrinal statement and see what it says and see what Bible passages they reference, and you should read those Bible passages, and then you should see if it makes sense to you. And if it doesn't make sense to you and it seems weird, then you should talk to your pastor about it. Okay? But we're asking Jesus. What does Jesus say? Jesus says, without hesitating or rebuking the young rich man, he says, don't murder, don't commit adultery, don't steal, and don't bear false witness. Respect your father and mother, and love your neighbor as yourself. So, if we think that Jesus is saying, hey, John 3:16, good, you believe in me. Oh, what do I need to do? Hey, just keep the 10 commandments, and then you're all set. Okay, which ones specifically? Jesus only names 6. Okay, cool. So as long as we believe in Jesus, and sorry about the noise, it's what we got today. That's the neighbor. Love your neighbor. Interesting. Okay, anyway. So Jesus only names 6. Sweet. So we're off the hook for all 10. Now we only have to do 6. Well, what are those 6? Murder, adultery, theft, false witness, mother and father, love neighbor. Where do those 6 fall on the list of the 10 commandments? Well, it's not the first one. It's not the second one. It's not the third one. Murder is number 6 on the list. So we're taking these 6 that Jesus gave in this conversation, and we're seeing where they fall on the classic 10 commandments, right? And murder is 6, adultery is 7, theft is 8, false witness is 9, father and mother is 5th, and love your neighbor as yourself is not on the list. That's not one of the 10 commandments. Uh-oh. Well, that causes a problem. Why does it cause a problem, Reed? Well, because I was operating under the assumption that, he was talking about the 10 commandments, and then I asked him which ones out of the 10 commandments, and then he gives me this list, and frankly, it's, these 6 from the list of the 10 commandments, except he brought in this other one that's not on the 10 commandments. So when Jesus said, keep the commandments, was he even talking about the 10 commandments, or was he talking about, like, a whole bunch of other ones that I don't even know if I've heard of before? So love your neighbor's not on the 10, but we hear that all the time. We hear love your neighbor as yourself everywhere. So where else do we hear it? Okay, we hear it in Matthew 22, 34 through 40. Let's go to Matthew 22, 34 through 40. I hope you guys can hear me. I'm trying to get closer and louder so that you can. Okay, Matthew 22, 34 through 40. What happens in Matthew 22? So I encourage you to read the whole chapter, okay? Because then you'll get the context of this whole conversation. But basically what's happening is the Pharisees and the Sadducees are trying to trip Jesus up, and they're trying to trap him and ask him, okay, well, Jesus, if you know so much about God and the Torah, then tell us, what are the most important commandments of all? And literally ask, teacher, which is the greatest command in the Torah? So remember, the Torah is the first 5 books of the Bible, and there's 600 some commands, big ones and small ones scattered throughout, and details and specifics scattered throughout the first 5 books of the Bible. And so this is an attempt to weed through, hey, which ones do I need to obey, right? Because maybe you go to a church that says, hey, being gay is not cool. Okay, well, being gay is not on the list of the 10 commandments. Okay, so keep the 10 commandments and don't be gay. Well, how did they patch that in there? They have some metric, some doctrine for what they choose out of the Torah and tell the congregation to obey. Not eating pork, that's in Leviticus. Leviticus 11 tells the Hebrews what is food and what is not food. And does your church say that, hey, some of the commands that you need to obey are in Leviticus 11? Or are they like, nah, you can ignore Leviticus 11? And if they can say that you can ignore Leviticus 11, why can you ignore Leviticus 11? You should have this conversation with your pastor. And then if that confuses you more, you should bring those confusions here, and we can talk about it here. That'd be great. Do that. Okay. Anyway, back to Matt 22. So the Pharisees and the Sadducees try to trip Jesus up, and they say, which is the greatest command of the Torah? So in all the first 5 books of the Bible, which is the most important command? And Jesus replies, and he says, you shall love Yahweh, your Elohim, with all your heart and all your being and with all your mind, which is, he's quoting directly out of Deuteronomy 6:5. So he just quotes Torah to them, and he points exactly to something in the Torah, saying this is the most important. And he says this is the first and greatest command. Okay? He doesn't stop there. He says, and the second command is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. Where is this? Okay, well, he's not just pulling this out of his tuchus. He is also quoting Torah. And let me figure out where. Okay, Leviticus. So you shall love your neighbor as yourself. He is making a direct reference to Leviticus 19:18. So does your church preach anything out of Leviticus? Does your church reference anything out of Leviticus? Does your church say that you should keep Levitical law? Because if your church says, hey, we're freed from Levitical law, well, then you're freed from what Jesus, Messiah, is saying is the absolute most second important thing that we as Christians do. If you do nothing else as a Christian, you should absolutely love God the Father with all of your heart, soul, strength, being, mind, all of it. And you should love your neighbor as yourself. And if you've got a question of who your neighbor is, well, that question is asked to Jesus as well, and you can read that for yourself when you read your Bible for yourself. Okay, or you can ask it in the comments and I'll tell you. All right. He goes on. Jesus says, on these 2 commands hang all the Torah and the prophets. So he's saying, hey, all of the instruction, I and the Father are one. Keep my commands. If you love me, keep my commands. The commands is the Torah. And then the prophets are the section of the Tanakh, the section of the Old Testament, where all of the prophecy that points to Christ, so that when Christ comes to earth, we know who he is because he's fulfilling prophecy. All of that hang on those two things. Love the Lord your God with all of your mind, body, being, soul, heart, all of it, and love your neighbor as yourself. It's not that you only have to do those two things. It's that all of the other instruction is based on those two things. It's foundational. Those are the sections of the owner's manual, the operating manual, the instruction booklet. The first half of the instruction booklet is going to explain how you go about loving God. The second half of the instruction booklet is going to give you all of the details on how you go about loving your neighbor as yourself. It's not your opinion. Hey, I think I did a good job today loving my neighbor. Yeah, I'm keeping the commands. Hey, I really did a good job today loving God. I'm keeping the commands. That's not it. That's not it. These are foundational. Okay, so an activity for you, whether you are thinking about becoming a Christian and feeling something tugging on your heart, but you haven't given your life over to Christ yet, you haven't gotten baptized yet, or you have gotten baptized and you go to church every week and you consider yourself a Christian, here's the activity, here's the assignment. Go down this list of 6. Murder, adultery, theft, false witness, mother and father, love neighbor, and do a self-assessment. Get out a piece of paper, get out a pen, write murder, see how you're doing with murder. Abortion is murder. God knew you by name before he formed you, as he formed you and put you in the womb. Before he put you in the womb, he knew who you were. He knows the number of hairs on your head. He knows you better than you. He knows you better than your mom, knows you better than your dad and your siblings. You don't know the number of hairs on your head. God does. The creator of the whole universe made you and knew you by name. You were a person. You were a fully formed human being before you were fully formed in the womb. You have your own DNA, you have your own being, you have your own soul. I'm a murderer. I'm guilty. I'm guilty of that one. Okay, adultery. Adultery is having sex before marriage. Adultery is having sex with someone who you're not married to. Adultery is, Jesus says adultery is lust. So the first 5 books of the Bible, the Torah, that's pretty basic on what adultery is. But then in the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus says, hey, even if you're looking with lust in your eyes, you're committing adultery in your heart. Even if you don't act on it, you still have this heart condition. That's harder than just controlling your behavior. I'm absolutely guilty of that. Especially here in West Michigan in the summertime when there's ladies jogging up and down the sidewalk in bathing suits. It's difficult. I shouldn't say it's difficult. Me saying it's difficult is a cop-out. Jesus says, my yoke is easy, my burden is light. If you love me, keep my commands. What does he command us to do? He commands us not to commit adultery. What does he think adultery is? Lust. Don't be lustful. If you're having this sin problem and you're feeling convicted, then just ask for help. We can't do it by ourselves. The entire Old Testament is proof that we consistently suck at this. So what did God do? God put himself in a human body, came to earth, and he led us an example. That verse that we opened the video with, 1 Peter 2:21. For to this you were called, obedience, keeping my commands. Don't commit adultery, don't lust. For to this you were called, because Messiah also suffered for us. Jesus went through everything that you went through. Jesus was confined within a human body. Jesus got morning wood. Jesus got bored. He got hungry. He got frustrated. Because Messiah also suffered for us, leaving us an example that you should follow in his steps. So if you are wondering what to do, maybe you should do what Jesus did. What did Jesus do? Well, Jesus kept the Torah, for one. What is the Torah? Torah is our instruction. It's the house rules. Father God, who loves us, made the Torah so that if we follow it, things would go well for us. And if we don't, well, then sin has consequences, doesn't it? Not just punishment, but consequences. Bad things happen as a result of being disobedient. And fathers, we see this in our kids. Like, hey, don't jump off the couch. I jumped off the couch, I hurt my arm. It's like, I told you not to jump off the couch. It's not because I don't want you jumping on the furniture, it's because I don't want you getting hurt. And now you've sinned, you've disobeyed my house rules of jumping off the couch, and you broke your arm. I told you not to. That's what this is. It's instruction for our own sake, for our own good. Let's skip. Let's go down to 5, father and mother. Honor your father and mother. Well, one of your fathers is your heavenly father, your father in heaven. Be obedient to the Father, and life will go well for you there. Deuteronomy 18:6. I've got that messed up. It's in Deuteronomy. Honor your father and mother. I wish Lila were here. She's 8. She has that memorized. Oh, I wonder why. Deuteronomy 18:6. Well, let's go look. See if I'm right. Proverbs 18:6 is the other one that she's got memorized. The mouth of a fool invites a beating. So that's why I think I'm getting it mixed up. Proverbs, Deuteronomy 5:16. Okay, I'm only willing to waste so much time with me scrambling around trying to find verses that I think I know. Deuteronomy 5:16, respect your father and mother as Yahweh your Elohim has commanded you, so that your days are prolonged, and so that it is well with you on the soil which Yahweh your Elohim has given you. Do what your mom and dad tell you to do, and you'll live a long life, and you'll be successful out there in the world as an adult once they're no longer around to guide you. Oh, that's great. Okay, I'll do that. Yeah, same goes for God the Father. Obey his house rules, follow all his commands, and life will go well for you. The conversation between the young rich man and Jesus could have stopped at, hey, okay, I checked the John 3:16 box. What do? Oh, what do you do? Keep the commandments. Okay, great, thanks. I'll go do that. Jesus leaves. What are the commandments? The Torah. The conversation could have stopped there. Jesus would have been fine with the conversation stopping there. But he comes back, he's like, I don't know about all that. Which ones? And then he gives him this truncated list. Okay, so that's father and mother. Theft, that's pretty simple. Don't steal stuff. Don't take stuff that's not yours. If you have taken stuff that's not yours, those hotel towels, call the hotel, give them back. Yeah, pretty simple. I actually did that. I stole some pool towels from a vacation we had in Florida, and I brought them home, and like years later I was feeling convicted, and I called the hotel and tried to give them back, and ultimately the phone conversation landed with, there's no way for you to give them back. We don't want them back. No, there's no way for you to pay for them and to even make a donation to the resort. The manager of the resort was basically like, just keep the towels. He was very weirded out that I wanted to make amends for having taken them. I took like 6. Anyway, don't steal. Okay, don't bear false witness. I don't think this is lying. This is, if you type in your phone false witness and then you find all of the spots where that's mentioned in the Bible, you will find more consistently than not that it is do not bear false witness against your neighbor, or do not bear false witness against your brother. And what this is, some of the passages even describe intent. So don't bear false witness against your brother for your own selfish gain. This is not lying. We shouldn't lie, but what this allows for, and this is very important, and I'll use the classic example of the Gestapo knock on your door and ask you if you have Jews hiding in your basement, and you do, and you say, I don't know what you're talking about. I definitely don't have anybody else in the house except for me and my wife here. That's a lie. That is absolutely justified and totally allowed as far as what I believe based on what I have read. You figure it out for yourself. You read your Bible, you figure that out. A good place to start would be Jacob and Esau in Exodus. Genesis. Jacob, who ends up inheriting the line that leads eventually to, Jacob becomes Israel, gets the name of Israel, and then he has 12 sons, and those become the 12 tribes of Israel. He was the second born. And he stole his birthright from his brother and conspired with his mother and lied to get it. And the angel was there, and that was all witnessed, and he wasn't smited from heaven for bearing false witness. So anyway, you can dig into that. Okay, and then love your neighbor. Love your neighbor as yourself. We could do a whole video on love your neighbor as yourself. But love your neighbor as yourself is not in Exodus. It is, it might be in Exodus, so don't grab me on that, but it is not the 10 Commandments. It is not what we think of as the 10 Commandments. It is in Leviticus. And Jesus says, hey, this is the second most important thing. So I would bring that up to your pastor and be like, hey, why do I follow this bit of Levitical law, but not this bit of Levitical law as a Gentile believer? Gentile means non-Jewish. So I don't have any Jewish heritage, and here I am in the U.S., and I'm a Christian, and I go to this big, church that has a lot of fancy music, and I'm a Christian, and I'm not told I have to abide by Levitical law, and yet we pick these little chunks that kind of just match our culture and being a good person in secular society, and we follow those. Why? I think because they're convenient, that's why. Which I don't think makes a whole lot of sense from what I read. Okay, so let's move on. This week, the step of obedience is tithe. And we're already running long on this video. I could do a whole 1 hour video on tithing, and frankly, I would need to prepare more, and I do still need to prepare more. I need to read more. Right now, I'm busting through a few chapters every day with study and commentary, and I did a story narrative summary kind of Bible in a Year podcast a few years ago and breezed through the whole thing. It wasn't really all that great. And then a little over the last year plus, I've done my own reading and journaling study, 1 chapter a day through the New Testament, and I finished that, and now I am doing a few chapters with commentary and study, which takes me about an hour, and I do that once or twice a day, and I'm starting in Genesis and moving through, and I'm almost done with Exodus now. So I'm going to be getting into the next 3 books of the Torah, and what I read will inform these steps of obedience that are showing up in these videos. And so 5 videos from now, I may come back and be like, oh boy, this is how I'm tweaking my Sabbath, or this is how I'm tweaking my tithe. So I'll give you a point in time idea of what we have been doing for tithe, and what we're going to change about how we tithe. And then you'll get to follow this as we move forward. So tithing, let's just reference Malachi 3:10. See if I can find it. Malachi 3:10. That was fast. Yay. Bring all the tithes into the storehouse, and let there be food in my house. And please prove me in this, said Yahweh of hosts. God, Father God of hosts. Whether I do not open for you the windows of the heavens and shall pour out for you boundless blessing. Okay, so this is through the prophet Malachi. God the Father is saying, hey, bring me all your tithes, fill up my house, please test me in this. Like if you're nervous to take part of your wealth and part of your blessing and your animals and your garden and your livestock and your earnings, your money, if you're nervous to take that and offer it to me and sacrifice it to me and put it in the temple, test me in this. Test me this. I will bless this, God is saying. See if I don't open up the floodgates of heaven and pour blessing out upon you for obeying this command. It's a challenge. It's a challenge from God. And I think this is super important for dads and for husbands, because I think that we do sacrifice a lot in our position, and we work hard. And we should. And if you don't, then get your poop in a group. If you are a father and you are a husband and you are not working hard and you're not asking your wife, hey, am I doing a good job? Get it together. Man up. And I say this because I struggled to do this, and I had a period in my life where I did not. And every day I try to do better, and you should be available to your kids, and you should role model for them. If you're being lazy, if you're being scared, if you don't do something because it's hard, that's weakness. Knock it off. If you're playing video games all the time when there's stuff that needs to get done, you are a child. If you are in a relationship where you are the father figure to somebody, you're dating somebody who has a child, for example, man up. Be a father. All right, that's enough of me ranting. Boy, that was a tangent. Okay, I'm back. I'm back. This is hard for fathers and husbands to get, because we sacrifice so much, and we work so hard for that money, and we're trying to pay off that little bit of a debt, or we're trying to pay off the minivan, or we're trying to pay off the house, or we're trying to save up to get the thing, or we bought that camper and now we owe on it, and trying to sell it. Well, we're not going to get as much as what we owe, and trying to tithe and take 10%, and like, that's just hard. Ask God, ask Dad to help. Dad says, hey, I need you to do this, and I will prove to you that I will provide for you. You've got to lean. You cannot do it. You cannot do it. You cannot bear all of that on your own shoulders. You will fail, and you'll burn out, and you'll be angry, and your wife won't want to hang out with you, and your kids will hate you. Speaking from my experience, this is just Reed. This is just brother to brother talking right now. So I encourage you to test him. He invites it. Test me in this. Okay, so we used to tithe 10%, which let's not get into the weeds on the 10% thing on this. I just don't have the bandwidth to get there. We can talk about tithing more as we go, or if you have advice or bits in the Bible to talk about that, then sure. The bottom line, and Jesus clarifies this too. There's the rich. This is somewhere in the New Testament. If you know where it is, put it in the comments. Jesus is like, hey, see that guy over there? He's rich. He's giving 10%. He's following the rule, right? See that lady over there? She's got like nothing. She's got these 2 pennies. She put those 2 pennies in the offering plate. She gave more. He put a bunch of money in the offering plate. It was 10% of his earnings. She put 100% of her earnings in the offering plate. It was only 2 pennies. She gave more because that's all she had. That deserves more blessing, is the point that Christ is making. So how much you give, I don't necessarily care about. I definitely don't care about it. I'm just a dude. I care about how much I give. And I want to test God. I want to be like, okay, look, I don't have enough money for all this stuff I got going on. But all of my money, all of my blessing, all of my wages, the fact that I even have a job, the fact that I'm able-bodied to work is a blessing from you. And that's the point. Your tithe is keeping in perspective the fact that your success is not yours. It's a gift from the Father. Okay, so how do we tithe? How do we tithe? Well, I used to do 10% in an account, and that would just build up, and every once in a while I would grab that account and I would send it to church, right? This part of the video might get me in trouble. Bring it. Oh boy. I argue, and these are my thoughts, I argue that the point of the tithe is not necessarily to fund God's projects. God does not need you to fund his projects. The church does not need your money in order to grow. God will grow his church with or without you, and with or without that building, and with or without that church gymnasium, and with or without that new sound system. Jesus did not need a building or a sound system in order to preach to thousands. Congregations bigger than the one you go to. Okay? It's a sacrifice. Tithing is a sacrifice. It's the first fruits. Why do you have that harvest in the first place? Because God made it happen. He allowed it to happen. He blessed it. And all he wants is for you, when you go and you accept that blessing and you use that harvest to feed your family, that you recognize him, and all he asks is like, hey, give me your first fruits. Like those first few ripe tomatoes that look beautiful, give them to God. And many times in the Old Testament, we see that just being burned. It's a sacrifice. It should hurt a little bit. It's like, oh man, I owe $2,000 on this thing and I want to pay that off, because if I pay that off, then I can do this, and there's all this good stuff, and I've got this, but I'm moving this money over from the business, and the 10%, and it's like, ooh, I could just pay it off. And that 10% hurts. I don't care where you send your tithe to. I don't care whether you send it to church. Again, these are my thoughts. I don't care where you send it. If you send it to church, if you send it to an organization. I'll be honest, where we tithe now is I send money to one of 3 places. Alpha Grand Rapids is a birth center in Grand Rapids. They do amazing work to support people who have just found out that they're pregnant, or have been pregnant and have a kid that they can't support, or whatever area in that journey from, we're knocked up, to my kid is 3. They support people. They're absolutely doing the Lord's work as far as I can observe there. And they are helping to support and encourage moms who think that that it's going to be better if they kill their baby. So we give money there. I send money there because it's undeniable to me and what I can observe that that's one of the front lines of God's work here on earth, and that those people of that organization are being his hands and feet. Another place that we send money is Grindstone Ministries. You can find them on YouTube, grindstoneministries.org. They do disaster relief, and they don't mess around. They go get it done. And I have volunteered with them in person, and that, to me, it's clear God shows up when a disaster strikes, and Grindstone Ministries is there, and Bible study is happening, and people are getting baptized, and people are doing the Lord's work, and Christ is there, and that's a pretty undeniable good place for my money. And then the third one is Caleb House. Caleb House is real and active counter trafficking in the United States. They will actually go save children who are being sold for sex and give them all of the support and housing and legal aid and counseling that they need in order to be removed from that cycle of sin. Caleb House. Caleb with a K. Caleb House. CalebHouse.org, also here on YouTube. Here's where it's going to get messy. Frankly, I believe that if you took 10% of the money that you made and you took it out into the yard and you lit it on fire, God would treat that as a tithe and recognize your sacrifice. It's not about where the money goes. God, yes, these organizations get donations and they work hard as nonprofits to fundraise, to do what they do, and it's a great place to send your money. But that is not the point of the tithe. The point of the tithe is tied to love the Lord your God with all your heart. The most important. It is recognize who gave you that money in the first place. Recognize who gave you your able body in the first place. Recognize who gave you all of the good things. Recognize who allowed you to wake up this morning. That is belief. In the book of James, show me your belief by your word. If you tell me of your belief, I'll show you my belief by my works. Yeah, that's how you show your belief, is you put your money where your mouth is and you tithe. Okay? All right. So what we are doing now, the change for this this week's step of obedience, is we are going to start tithing on the gross, and we are going to start tithing as first fruits. So I've got several jobs. Some are W-2. So I've got some side gigs that are W-2, and I get direct deposit. And what you can do is, some places will do this, and if they do, it's great. You can link two accounts and you can divide. So when that direct deposit hits 10% automatically, or if you want to, round up to the safe side, do 11%, automatically goes into a separate account that you have that is for tithe money. And then you can write checks to the church out of that. You can write checks to Caleb House out of that. That it just automatically takes that out, so that when the rest of it hits your checking account, you're not looking at the whole number going, oh my gosh, I made $500 this week. That's great. Oh wait, I need to tithe. I need to take $50. And like, if it just automatically goes, then that can help the budget. Is that process of physically taking it and going, and moving it over valuable? Maybe. But you do you. The other income streams that we have are self-employment. So we run our own business. So I sell a job for $2,000 and I perform that job and it's good, and the client pays me and I have this check for $2,000. We used to keep all of that money in the business and function the business. And then as we were taking draws out of the business as profit, taxable income, we would set tax aside and we would set tithe aside. So of that $2,000 that we bring in for that job, we might really only be getting about, $500 or so, let's say, as taxable income. And we would set some of that money aside to pay taxes at the end of the year, and we would take 10%. So $50 out of that would then go into our tithe account, and we would either give it to the church or give it to Caleb House or one of these other places, right? What we're doing now is we get that $2,000, we take 10% off of that $2,000, and we send it immediately to the church or to Caleb House or to Alpha Grand Rapids. First fruits. Test me in this. I don't think Jesus would get caught up in the specifics. Jesus looked at the rich person giving 10% and the single mom giving her last 2 pennies. And he's like, she gets it. She knows what's important. Her heart is in the right place. This guy is doing what he is supposed to do. He's doing what he's told to do. So that's where we're at for tithe. Okay? So that's where we're going to do that, and we're going to see if God blesses that, and we're going to do that for this coming week, and we'll see where we are on this next week. Maybe I'll be homeless and won't have any money left. Oh no. Oh my gosh. My wife is going to watch this and she's going to panic. No, she's going to be on board. She knows that we're going to keep it together. Okay. Because I'm a responsible father and a husband, and I work hard to support my family. Are you a responsible father and husband? Do you work hard to support your family? Maybe you do a better job. Okay, anyway. All right. We're done for the day. Thank you all very much, and we'll see you later, neighbor.